when we talk about founders who are building across borders, we definitely say that they are built different. And there's a very specific reason to it. It's because they've lived across borders, they've worked with people, and they understand little nuances that make them separate, which gives them the first foot to launch themselves globally and their brand, which does not care if they're in any part of the planet, but they know that they are successful founders. So, to make this a reality and to give us a breakthrough of our own life, we have been joined by amazing Miss Daisy Onubogu. And I would keep these 30 seconds to give her the mic and make the crazy 30-second introduction, which is an interesting part of what we do. So, Daisy, to you, go ahead.
Hello, nice to meet you all. The shortest 30-second intro. Okay. I am a Black autistic ADHD gifted individual who has spent her whole life trying to figure out what to do with that. And that has taken me on a journey from law and studying law to working in tech and events and in network and community building and in startup founding and as a venture capital investor. And now, more recently, I've started a podcast called Strange Life Podcast, which is my attempt to build an intellectual home where all the things that I like thinking about, which is people and how they work and how cultures form and how human beings can better collaborate with each other, so that I can all have a home. And then hopefully I can help make the world a better place with everything I have had to figure out about how human beings tick.
Wow, that's so precise, and I'm so excited to have a deep discussion about so many different things. And you've talked about ADHD, and I'd like to pick up the conversation from this part, is because so many founders, I personally know I'm a part of this community. It's called Focus Founders, and like you have coaches now who work with ADHD founders. So, what is it to actually be in an age when you know that this is something that you go through, and how did you overcome this to start building your own brand and start realizing that, hey, this is the business side that I want to do, and I know that I have ADHD.
No, this is such an important question. And I think I love the way you phrased it. What is it like to be in an age where this is more understood? And I think we're really privileged, right? For there to be enough like information around for you to finally understand, oh, wait, I am built different. Because I think for a lot of us, like the childhood years and teenage years, you're just being like, is it just me or is everyone else on a different wavelength? Or is everyone else, it's like they got an orientation that I missed and somehow I'm the one who's finding all of these things difficult. Whereas when you actually know, oh no, I'm literally wired differently, then suddenly you're like, okay, what are the things that are true about being differently wired? And then how do I make those my advantage? And then what are the things that are challenging about differently wired? And then how do I set up structures and supports for those things? And I think once you're in that zone of living, then it's an extraordinary, almost privilege to be built like this, to be able to, if you're interested in something, zone out of everything else and hyper focus to the point that you can get 2 weeks, 3 months worth of work sometimes done in one day just by being able to think so quickly and stay so deeply connected to what you're thinking about. Like that's incredible. And then also even some of the other things like context switching really quickly can feel really disorienting and can to the outside kind of make you look like you're really disorganized, but it also allows you to move across so many different ideas, which is often how you can see kind of unexpected connections between things or disparate connections between things. And I think that's why there's so many of us in entrepreneurship, because that mostly happens as a result of seeing, one thing and something else that seems like it has nothing to do with that thing and saying, hang on a minute, these could combine. Or if I change this part about this thing, suddenly that's a whole new product or offering that doesn't exist yet. Or even just the fact that we often have to solve so many problems just to exist. You have to keep figuring out how to keep your belongings, even though you always forget where you put things, or how to explain yourself to people. And I think all of this kind of nurtures problem solving skills to like a crazy degree. And so, yeah, it's a really exciting time to be able to understand what it means to be ADHD, to be able to be supported for the parts that are challenging, and to be able to really take the potential of it, like, I don't know, all the way, whatever that means as far as that goes. So, and yeah, it's nice to have community and to not feel alone in the weirdness. So, yeah, I'm really excited about that. Oh no. I think the audio is dropped out for me, unfortunately. I don't know what I can do. I can do, at least your video is still moving and I can see you moving. Oh, yes.
Oh, can you hear me
Now it's
now?
back.
Perfect.
Yes. Amazing.
Great.
I missed
So
the
I
whole
was
question.
asking, of course, we're doing it in an online format, and these are a part and parcel of what we do.
Okay, it's part of the fun. We're building the rocket ship while flying it. That's how that goes.
Oh yeah, and to actually get into, you talked about community and everything around it. I absolutely agree with you. Like the three pillars that we feel: content, conversion, and connection. I think community solves all three of them. And if you have these three pillars sorted, and you would start feeling belong, that hey, if maybe, I mean, someone told me that misery loves togetherness, and I was like, hey, I mean, if you're a part of a community, that you sharing your misery. I mean, of course, like you have people, those who talk about like, hey, I have ADHD, or hey, I'm going through clinical depression. Hey, maybe people who battle cancer, they are into round circles. So, I mean, of course, the situations might be a place where if it's misery, but they're battling it together. So, I mean, it's not that misery loves support. Maybe, I mean, like it feels good to know that hey, people are in the same
You're not
struggling boat as
alone.
you are.
Exactly. Like it makes all the difference. The difference between, oh, we're on an adventure together, we're puzzle solving together versus, oh, I'm in despair alone. And so, yeah,
Oh yeah,
misery
you were
loves
like,
company.
I didn't realize that it was just me who was going through all of this on
Yeah.
my own.
Exactly. And I think that's why it's a great time for this synergy between social media and the growth of that and the growth of content and influencing and people's desire to find community because they're sort of supercharging each other where so many things that you do think are just you. You'll go online and see some random meme that's describing exactly that situation. You're like, oh wow, it's not only me. And then the next thing, whether you can form a group with the people in the comment section, or you can even just go join whatever community that creator is probably trying to build around them. And you're like, yeah, not only is it not just me, here's a solution, or here's a workaround, or here's a takeaway from that. And I think it's amazing. It's really beautiful.
Oh yeah, absolutely. And I still remember you mentioned like three quick wins. One was that in part of being Web Summit, you led the VIP speaker acquisitions, and you secured your way into A-list parties, Hollywood dinners, Davos dinners, and you also helped raise a 150 million euro second fund, which had six investments. And I mean, you have a team and you support a part of the digital nomad community. So I'd like to deep dive into like all these three aspects as well, and understand that how did you make your way through this, and all the founders that I think in the founder community, it's so much about networks and connections. I mean, every time it's not the cold outreach that hey, I cold DM you and you might convert, but it's more that hey, I know this person and maybe I could make an introduction. It's more about intros and networking. So how did you make your way into this, and how would you recommend someone who actually feels that these are the A listing places that I want to be at, and then they could do the same?
I think essentially the best way I can summarize it is that I weaponized my own people pleasing compulsions. And in a way, this is what I mean when I'm always saying, figure out what your deal is and find a way to make the most of it. And I think, between being autistic and being an immigrant and sort of always feeling a little bit on the outside, it obviously generated quite a lot of fear and anxiety in me as a child and as an adolescent to try and figure people out, read the room, understand how to make this person happy and how to make that person happy so nobody got angry with you. And I think because I noticed that whatever about the source of that behavior, it was a very useful behavior because in the end, people really liked me. And then when they liked me, they recommended things or helped me. And so I just sort of kept doubling down on that as a skill set. And so by the time I was at Web Summit, it was always thinking, like, who is this person at their core, this person I'm trying to reach, whether via email or this person I'm trying to connect with at this dinner table. Like, what is their deal? What can I notice from how they're dressed or what they've chosen to say about themselves or the bio that they've put together in this book? Like, what does it seem like would be a really good compliment right now that would make them feel like wow, I'm really being seen as I am. And then I would say that thing and then find out like, what's a way in which I could be helpful? What's a small thing that I can do to this person that means that they'll be like, whoa, I really like her. And I really want to like return the favor
Work with
somehow.
her, yeah.
Exactly. And it just kept being different variations of that. So by the time I wasn't, trying to get into dinner parties or trying to recruit speakers, and I was at Rome, and we were trying to figure out how to build a playbook for community, then it was sort of like, how do I teach other people how to do this? How do I teach our community managers on the ground and the digital nomads that are in, the Rome community how to do this for themselves? And then even in venture capital, it was the same. And so the idea of like, if we can bring a network together, if we can keep making everybody pleased to be a part of that network, then we'll turn that
Hmm.
into deal flow. Then we'll turn that into LP investment for the next fund, and all of those things. And then I think when you have a team that's really ready to work with you to take on your ideas, and when you have a team that recognizes, whoa, this person is really good at this thing, we should listen to her. That makes all the difference.
Right.
And I think that's why Backed was an amazing place. And even though in some ways venture capital seems an unlikely choice for like best job ever or most fun industry or work ever, it was for me because it was somewhere where they were like, I think you're a social genius, so we'll just listen to what you say and then see if that makes it easier for us to make friends with people, and if making friends with people will turn into more money for this fund. And then it did, and so that was really cool.
Wow, you're making me sound the entire VC process like more like a social connection and social place more than, like people spending hours and like so much of time just to close people, to get in touch with people and be like, hey, can I speak with you? This is the idea that I have and I just want you to have a look at it. So, how much do you think that, you being a social person and helped you in different areas? Like, what have been like the two places where you felt that this identification of social cues was the best thing that could ever happen to you?
I don't think I have anywhere where it wasn't the most important thing. I think that's what's always been really interesting to me and fascinating about being alive, is that every single like environment I've ever been in, from secondary school, where everybody knows, they're like, okay, well, that's high school, of course that's all about social hierarchy. But then you go to
Right,
university, and
of
the only
course.
reason you would get a mentor from any, from a professor that you needed, the only reason you would get involved in student societies, which are the ways in which you then get internships, the only way you even hear about internships or get any opportunities is because someone likes you enough to invite you, or they like you enough to tell you about something. And then I graduated, and I was like, okay, well, now this is the real world, the world of work. And every single role always came down to, do your colleagues like you? And then as a result, do they invite you to join this team or that team? And then when you are on that team and you have opportunities that you're given, they
Right.
still somehow just always come down to, can you communicate with this person? Can you make them feel psychologically safe enough that they want to do something with you? And then can you explain to them what it is that you're trying to do and then be successful? And I was like, is everything just about
Just like
socializing?
that.
And I'm like, I think it might be. And I'm like, but if it is, why don't we talk about socializing all the time? Like, why does it feel like all of the skills and knowledge that I'm using day to day are actually all the secret, quiet things? And I'm like, what is this weird game where the most important skill set is the only one that no one talks about like a skill set? It's the only thing that almost no one really formally studies. And so it's just this weird game where if you have studied it and you're good at it because you've maybe been anxious or mentally ill and you're divergent, then you just have this like superpower. And then everybody else is just kind of like winging it and then ending up being like, I don't understand why my manager doesn't like me. I don't understand why I'm not being promoted. I don't understand why I'm not closing this deal. And I'm like, because you're not playing the actual game. What is happening here?
Oh,
And so I don't.
it's so true, like and I always tell this to people that, like have an automation set for yourself where in every single day, like 20 to 30 cold emails are sent out on your name. So you do a podcast, leverage content that the things that you are doing, you have your own newsletter. Now, your entire business is so much around their own personal brand. I'm not saying build a personal brand, maybe build a product, but at least put yourself out there. If you want to make millions out of being digitally out there, start being out there. You never know one person could change life. And it's so true. Like I applied to work with someone, and I tend to knew a few people in the same industry, and we were associated. So I said that, yeah, I know what you do, I know this because I know the people, and I didn't know that these people had collaborated. They did not check my resume. They just went to my LinkedIn. They didn't even ask me for it. They said that, would this person give a referral for you? I dropped him an email. I said, hey, can you like, I'm trying to work with this person, and they were just looking for like a word from you since we had been in touch. Any positive words would mean the world to me. And of course, I mean, who has problem in sharing a personal good word for you?
Exactly.
So they send that, and we close the deal, and there is no portfolio exchange, there's no CV, there's no resume. It's just two or three calls of us, two calls of us communicating and understanding, and then bam, we're working together.
Exactly. Like people think that the, as you say, the resume, the portfolio, et cetera, is the thing. And you're like, no, that's the excuse for people to look at you long enough to decide whether or not they like you. The actual thing that is always being decided is, do I like this person and do I want to spend more time with them and do things with them? That is every question. I think what's really interesting is those of us who have cultures that are like really collectivist in nature, we end up, even if we don't realize, oh, the game is all social, we end up with this advantage because we, from a young age, almost certainly had to figure out how to make this auntie okay and this uncle okay, and how to make how to be social, and as a result now you're just much more skilled in this area. And I think it's really interesting. I was learning recently that in Igbo, which is the cultural group that I'm from, in the Igbo cosmology, which is literally their understanding of how the whole universe is put together.
Oh.
There's this idea of it being like a marketplace, like everything collides and comes together, and then whatever the outcome of that collision is, like that's how the universe works, and that's also how society and culture works. You as a human being, you develop, and then you come to the marketplace of society, and you exchange whatever the thing is that you've nurtured in yourself. If it's music, if it's dance, if it's talking, if it's weaving, whatever it is, you bring it and then you exchange it with each other. But the point of it isn't really the thing you're doing, it's the exchanging is the point. And I think looking around and seeing the world that way has been transformational for me, not just because you close deals or you get jobs, but also because it makes everything so much more fluid. You can move from industry to industry. You can change things because you're like, oh, well, the game is still the same game. It's just exchanging. And today I'm exchanging contracts, and then tomorrow I can be exchanging blueprints for architecture, and then the next day I can be exchanging something else. The what doesn't really matter. What matters is I'm exchanging with other people.
Oh yeah, absolutely. And to like understand this better, you mentioned that like you worked with speakers, and I'd love to know like since you work with people, those we say in our language are like impossible to reach. So if let's say you had to reach, like anyone who wants to reach out to people as speakers, or like just get them into your ecosystem, how would you do that? I mean, how would you design, and how would you actually get a chance to speak with them, knowing that you don't know them, or you don't know anyone who knows them yet?
So the question is always, okay, if you don't know anyone who knows them, do you know anyone who knows anyone who knows them? And if it's not that, then do you know anyone who knows anyone who knows anyone who knows them? But it's always like, first, like, how many degrees removed are you, and what kind of line of introduction can you find? And the thing is, when you think about it realistically, that, like, what is it? The maximum is always 6 degrees removed. Like at most, even if you think you know no one, you are only 6 degrees away from insert the most powerful person in the world here. And so if you actually look with intention as to who could intro me into this circle, and in this circle, someone here will be a colleague of this organization, and this organization, has a partnership with that person. So finding first what is your line, and then what is the messaging that will actually go through that line. Like, what is a good enough reason for you to get to talk to the person you're trying to talk to, that if you gave this person to pass the message on to this person, to this person, it would actually get there. And it's literally those two things. And if you sit down and bring all your creativity together, you'll find a good answer for that. And mine was often, I know, it was for a conference. I want this person to fly over here and attend this event. Why would anybody come to an event if there's something there that they need? If there's a person there that they need to talk to, then they would be willing to come here. And so it was always, who does this really powerful person really need to be in a room with? And it was such a fascinating exercise because it helped me realize that everybody has someone that they are obsessed with. Everyone has someone that they're like, if only I could be near them. And so I did this exercise of like building out an archetypal ring of people and saying, if this person is saying yes, then this person would want to come. And if this person is saying yes, then this person would want to come. And then I'm like, if I can close this circle, then the event will happen. And so I was like, okay, if I really want a hotshot CEO, tech CEO type, then they
Right,
are
right,
still
right.
really dazzled by cultural icons. Like they're still really dazzled by cool people. If you are an Elon
Hmm.
Musk, it's still really incredible. Insert, the most successful female actress in the world kind of thing. And then, the cultural icons are still really dazzled by political power because that's the only thing that's kind of more, in a way, more powerful than cultural power. And so, like, the Secretary General of the UN is shinier, even to the most powerful female celebrity in the world, kind of thing. And then, who is the
Right,
Secretary General of the UN really dazzled by? The actual people with power, which is the nation leaders themselves, because they're the ones that
right.
you know decide whether or not their nation is even in the UN, et cetera, et cetera. And then who does powerful nation leaders and prime ministers want? And it's usually big business and like big money. But big money and old money is still really dazzled by shiny new hotshot, tech CEO types. And so I was like, okay, let's see if this is true. And then can I find an archetype that if I say this name to this person, they'll be like, ooh, I really want to come. Or if I say,
Hmm.
oh, you can talk about this thing that's important to you, or you can close a deal or be in a room with such and such a person. And so once you figure out this is genuinely a good piece of information, this is a good offer, this person would want to hear this offer, or at least any messenger I ask to pass it on would be like, that's a good offer. They should get this. If they say yes or no, it's fine, but I should pass this on. And once you find your good offer and then you find your line of introducers, then it's just a matter of sitting down and emailing until you finally get through.
Wow, I love how you build this entire spider web kind of stuff and be like, hey, decide this circle and then this circle and then this circle. But the most important part is to identify person one, like P1, P2, P3. From P1 to P5, I think the outer circle is the most impactful because that would determine how the other concentric circles or how the entire, the connection and web looks like. And is this the same that you also mentioned about fundraising and I mean all the people that you want to connect with or you want to have in your ecosystem are the people with deep pockets or I mean that sounds wrong but technically I mean yeah you want to
Hmm.
be the
Yeah.
same person and you want to connect with people those who know can invest in your idea and like if you have a network of founders you would want these introductions to for your community so how do you leverage that I mean how do you like since you are an operator how would you fundraise and how can you de-risk a founder journey in the beginning the same way that you've done for yourself I mean right now you're in Ireland you lived in London you've lived in Berlin you've lived in different parts of worlds and now you realize that you want to work and build all of this from sitting on the beautiful, landscapes of Ireland. So yeah, I mean, I'd love to bring
Exactly.
both of those aspects as well.
For sure. And I like the way you frame that because it exactly is that order of things. At first you de-risk the thing that you're trying to do because it's really important that when you're trying to reach anyone that you're not coming at it from a place of desperation. It makes you less creative, your thinking gets all foggy, and then you also like push when you should pull and you press too hard. So if your need is too high, you won't be able to connect with people. And so, like, how can you de risk whatever you're doing so that there is a viable version of it that's happening with no one helping you? So that even if nobody comes in, the thing is still happening. It's just maybe slower, maybe it's a little bit harder, maybe you don't sleep as many hours, but like build that first. Like, I guess what they're like ramen profitable, as startup founders would say, where you're like, the thing is happening. I can only afford noodles, but like, technically, it's making money. So, like, figure that out first. And then when you're in, like, okay, I would like money. I would like funds to come in, but like the thing is already happening. Then that way, that's when you're your sharpest. That's when you can be generous. That's when you can take your time. And then in terms of what you actually do, again, it's the same thing of the thing that I'm building, I must be doing it because it makes sense. Like there is some value to this, obviously. Like who wants this? Who needs this to exist? and who needs this to exist but maybe has already solved the problem for themselves, or needs this to exist but has a lot of money, or needs this to exist and really trusts me already because I worked with them in the past. So again, it's the same game of introducers, because someone with capital knows that the point of capital is to distribute it. So they are looking on some level for where it should go. The thing that the direction then they're looking for is a trustworthy individual or a trustworthy organization to tell them it should go here. And so you're looking for your bridge between you and any high net worth individual or any deep pocketed individual, if you will, is who is their trusted source? Like, who is the one that when they say, you should really look at this, they would be like, oh, I should look at that. And then it's the crafting the why does your thing make sense to that trusted individual to be what's passed on? And so it's taking the reason that you're already doing it. Like, why are you doing this instead of getting some other job? Like, there must be something that's good about this. And then angling it specifically at that trusted individual or that trusted organization. What is it helping them do? Why is this something that they would be excited to bring to the deep pocketed individual? Because then it's a win-win-win for everybody. The person who is the introducer, it's a win for them if the
Right.
thing they're introducing gets taken up, and it's a win for the individual who has capital, and the point of capital is to distribute it somewhere to have something to invest in. And so if you can't find any angle in which this would be a win, this would give more credibility or elevate the status of your introducer, or this would bring value to your investor, then that isn't the one you should be pitching. Like, find someone for whom this is a yes, it's just about getting through to them. And if you are doing it that way, you still have the numbers game. You still have the fact that it's a challenge to reach anyone. You'll still have the fact that it's a challenge to, communicate well, but at least you're on the right track. Like, it should already make sense that if you imagine that you were just sitting down in a room with the person that you're trying to ask, that it would make sense to them why they should put money into this. And so now it's just a matter of the fact that, oh, I'm not right next to them in the room. How do I convey what I'm trying to convey through through an individual or a group of individuals to reach them? And that's a much tighter game, or at least that's a real game, because it's challenging but it's possible, versus when you're just randomly throwing things out and aiming it all over the place, then that's just rolling dice.
Oh, yeah, that makes a lot of sense. And this brings us to an interesting segment that we do. It's called 90 Seconds to Teach Me Something. So, if I give you 90 seconds right now, what would you like to teach?
I think what I would like to teach is that the thing that people are most scared of about themselves, the things that they're most shy about, that is where your superpower is. Like, whatever your weird is, whatever you think is your deepest, darkest secret, that's where your answer is. And so find out the thing about yourself that you are uncomfortable about and get to know it and fall in love with it. Because from there, you'll get, whether it's inspiration as to what should I build, it'll be something around that. If the thing is that you are neurodivergent, or you have ADHD, or you're an immigrant, or you have a weird scar on your nose and it really bothers you, like, whatever the thing is, that's the fruit, or that's the source from which you can find, okay, there's a problem to be solved here, or there is something about, there's a support system that I would really like that doesn't exist, etc. And so find the thing that you are uncomfortable about and get to know it. And then from getting to know it, decide from there, what should I do with this? What are the skills that I have that few other people have? Because you would only have this skill if you'd been dealing with this challenge. Or what is the insight that I have because I'm seeing through the lens of someone who has a limb difference, or someone whose sister was blind, or like whatever the thing is that is the seat of complexity in your life, that's where
Right.
your idea will come from. And so if you find that, you'll realize what your special skills are, what your special insight is or perspective is. And from that, you can build, whether it's just how to be a better employee because you can show your manager, this is my edge, this is what I'm really good at that other people aren't. Or whether it's that you can be an entrepreneur because you say, this is the thing I should be building because few people get it like I get it. Whatever it is, face your demons. And then from there, build whatever it is that you should be building in the world.
Wow, that's so amazing. I mean, I really love how you've captured it so precisely, and it sounds more like you won't be able to discover things unless you enter into the mode of self discovery. And that's when you face your own demons is because for you to discover and uncover them, you need to sit with yourself, discover them, and then realize that, hey, I want to do something, and hey, this is how I'm going to do it.
100%. And that's why it's great, because it sort of it brings it all together. Because one, if you face your demons, even just for the sake of facing them, that's good. That's good for all of us, good for society, because people are less crazy when they at least have dealt with the thing that they would otherwise be running from. And then you get this like additional bonus of like, now you can move through the world authentically, because now whatever it is you'll be doing in the world, it'll be something that matters to you, that you actually understand. And that
And you
is
are
that.
actually deeply interested in it.
Yes, exactly. And so no one has to make you do it. You don't have to worry that, oh, I have ADHD, and so it's really hard to find motivation. Not when you care about something, then you have so much motivation. And worrying about how do I get up on Mondays, not a problem when the thing you're doing matters to you, or you at least you really get it. And so it's a really interesting game for you. So yeah, discover yourself, know yourself, and the fruits from that just keep coming.
Wow. That's amazing. And then I think one should really focus on this and to actually get a better understanding of how you've been working on things. We have a cool segment that's called Seven Questions to Fame. So once you're ready, I'm going to throw seven questions at you, which are going to be in a rapid fire format. So precise and neat.
All right, I'll do my best. You might have noticed I'm a yapper, but I'll try to keep it tight.
I mean, I can relate. I think since we both are into
Yeah,
podcasting, we do it because we love yapping.
exactly.
so,
Exactly.
so to begin with, the first question goes like, what is an ideal system design when you want to use storytelling to align teams, partners, and users?
Ooh, that is an interesting question. Okay. If you want to align people, then you start with the why of whatever is going on. Because that is what most stories are, is thing happens, then why did thing happen, and then what next? That's all stories if you really break it down. And so if you're trying to align people and get them on side, then the what is happening usually goes without saying, but why is it happening? Why does it matter? Like continue using why as your initial prompt and question, and from there the rest of the system comes through. And that works for anything. If you join a startup as employee number 4 and nothing makes any sense and you're like, what even is my job, ask why is this thing being built, why does it exist, why was I hired, why should anyone care, why should anyone invest, why should anyone be a customer. And why questions will give you something to start with, and from there you just keep going. So you get to whatever answer you get, then once you've processed that, you ask why for that answer, and then you keep building on top of that. And that is how you build organic systems. With organic systems, you don't, it's not like engineering where you structure it all. When you're building with, biological components, for instance, you start with something and then you keep nurturing it, and then it keeps expanding. And so you want to build those sorts of systems. Why is the thing that would allow it to keep expanding.
I really love the answer. The second goes like, you mentioned about, community beyond vibes. So if you could walk me through like the process of if I had to launch my community, how would I do it so that the biggest problem of retention and incoming members solves?
Yes. And that's why it matters. That's why it's important for you to build a community that makes sense for you, a community that you need, because all community is just allowing people to give each other what they need and then coordinating so they can do that efficiently. So if there isn't a foundation of need, then it's just vibes. That's when you get the word community seems to be there. There's a lot of like really nice animation that seems warm and fuzzy and friendly, but no one's really sure why they're there, what it has to do, what they have to do with anybody else. And so that's what falls apart. You come in, you're like, oh, it looks pretty nice in here. And then you're like, oh, okay, cool. And then you leave again. Versus you come in here and someone's like, you really need this thing. You're like, I do really need this thing. And they're like, you know who can give it to you? These 4 people. And this is where you all meet. So it makes sense for you to come here so that you can exchange what you need more efficiently. And so it's always about, if you understand it because you need it too, then you can keep hypothetically asking, what's the best way for me to get the thing I need? What about the environment I'm building, whether it's a physical space or more likely an online slash physical space, what about this environment is really conducive to me getting the thing that I need?
Right.
And you keep building around that premise. And then also having letting it be someone's problem to think about how connections are working. So when you have that core foundation of it makes sense, the people that I'm trying to reach, there is something that they need is here, then how do you keep thinking about the most efficient ways for them to get that? And that's where you'll get your event ideas from, or your branding from, or any of that will come from the thing that I know that the people who need this need. Is the core inspiration. Then the how are they getting to what they need as efficiently as possible is how you get the like specific strategy and architecture of community.
Oh, wow. That makes a lot of sense and that's quite descriptive. The next question goes like order in following ranks: money, purpose, community, fame, impact.
Ooh, okay. I think purpose has to come first because that's the core reason you're doing this specific thing and not just anything in general. Then, ooh, then impact actually next. It's between impact and community next, but I think impact next because again, if purpose is the why am I doing this specific thing as opposed to just anything hypothetically, then impact is why is my way of doing this thing working? Why is this the right one? And if there's no feedback from your environment that the thing you're doing is having an impact, then that shouldn't be what you're doing. And then community next, because community is just it's almost like a Swiss Army knife. It's like no matter if the purpose was changed and the impact was different, you would still need community as the like, how do you keep going? What reflects you back to you so you know your strengths, so you can pick yourself up after a hard day, so you can find connections to whoever you need to, etc. So community is the fuel that we think money is. Like money is an incredible fuel and resource, but community is like in everything fuel and resource. And then money is then more specific because it can get you very, very efficiently to something, but it can't do everything. And it also can't independently work on your behalf in the way community can. Sometimes you're just minding your own business and four people are having a conversation about how to better help you reach your goals because they're in community with you. But money doesn't really just have conversations with itself about how to find you more investment. It does in some ways, but not really. And so then community next. And then after that, I think what was the other one? What apart from money was there? Because I know money is next, but I want to make sure that
Fame,
whatever is
fame,
remaining. Okay, yeah, yeah. Then definitely
fame.
money next, and then fame last. Because fame is actually, I think fame is a good thing because I do think if you're doing something impactful at scale, I think you should get your flowers while you're still alive. I think nothing breaks my heart more than seeing a statue of someone that I know was broke and hated while they were alive. And then now that they're gone, we're like, oh, they're amazing. I hate it. I hate it so much.
Oh,
And so I do think fame is great, but I think in comparison to everything else, it's the only one you don't need. Like you do need at some point money, both to sustain yourself so you can keep doing what you're doing and because it's a fuel, etc. Whereas fame, worst case, if you don't get it and you have everything else, you have purpose, you have impact, you have community boosting you and validating you and fueling you, and you have money to be rewarded with and to live your life while you're here, then that's pretty good. Fame would be nice on top. So that's the order.
I really appreciate the answer. It's exhaustive as well. And what is one book that you feel one should definitely read no matter what?
That's tough. I love so many books. Oh, okay.
I know.
I know. Okay.
Choose one.
This is genuinely really hard. I'm not even sure I know an answer. Okay, what is one book? No, no, I don't know. I don't. Maybe no. Can I cheat and say Wikipedia? I don't know because I don't. This is why I struggle because I don't have a favorite book. I love all books. But what is one? Hmm. I might have to pass, but I'm literally looking at my bookshelf now to see if there's like one that I could pick out and then give. But my bookshelf right now is also only reflective of what I happen to be reading now. But hmm. Okay. Well, yeah, maybe let's go with Robert Sapolsky's book. which is, what is that called again? Hang on, I need to double check what it's called.
The evolution, like the one with evolution, Robert Sapolsky.
Yeah, is it
Yeah,
biology? I think that, yeah. So that one, I think
I know.
actually, oh, thank God. I was like, oh my God, maybe I don't have a single book on it. But that one will do because I do think it is so fundamentally
something
important
that
for
one should
people
go
to
through.
understand their minds and brains and how that works and how we are systems functioning in relation to the system of the environment around us. And I think if more people understood that, we would all be in a much better place. So, yes, that one. Oof. Oh my God, the
Yeah.
stress. I was like, I actually don't think I have an answer.
No, but I get it. I mean, it's one of the books. Even like I went through this YouTube series that Robert Sapolsky has kept over there since he is a professor at Stanford, and
So
it's
good.
amazing. I mean, I
It's
think
so
anyone
good.
should
Honestly,
go
it changed
through
my life.
that. Yeah. And he
Yeah.
talks about everything like molecules, biology, and then this like
Yeah.
from systems. I
Chaos
think it's a
theory, everything.
yeah,
So
it's a combination of what Yuval Noah Harari talks in *Sapiens* and also what Robert Greene talked in, I think, *48 Laws of Nature* with a lot of science. If you have been a
yeah,
science student and you understand that.
exactly. And yeah, it's so comprehensive that it ends up just answering and giving more truth, I think, than almost anything I'd come across previously on the mind. And the book is basically those lectures plus some more anecdotes, which is great.
Yeah. Curious question that I have for you is, which is the next in this round that
Ooh,
if
one sec. I
you
remember the name of the book for what it's worth. I literally just remembered it. So let me say it just in case. It was Behave by Robert Sapolsky. Behave is what it's called. Yes. Okay.
Behaved by
Sorry.
Robert Sapolsky. We'll add, like the Amazon link in the description that
Yeah.
hey, we can buy it from this is our referral link, get discounts.
There you go. Perfect. Make it easy for people.
Oh yeah. And coming back to the next question, which goes like, if you had to like go back, look in time, one advice that changed how you look at things, what would that advice be?
Okay, the one that I want to give technically was advice I gave myself, which always feels really awkward, but it's still the one that comes to mind the most often. And it was when I was at Davos, and I think I'd been to two events, maybe the first day, and then this was the second day, and it was, I think it was maybe a Deloitte dinner or something, and it was the first time I was encountering directly, I think enough, like a bunch of heads of state. So I'd met actually no, I'd met two prime ministers before this, but anyway, it was the first time that I guess I wasn't hosting them as like an employee, or part of the speakers team, but I was sitting at dinner face to face, if you will. And I just remember thinking after a conversation had finished, and I was like, oh, there was nothing different about the texture of that conversation and any other conversation I've had. And it felt like the things that I ended up connecting with them on are the same things I connect with everybody on, which is feeling a little overwhelmed, feeling like you're kind of making it up as you go along, feeling like, like it all felt so normal and mundane that I had kind of two realizations at the same time. One, that this fear I'd had, this imposter syndrome that I'd had, that, okay, maybe I'm smart in this room, but one day I'm going to get to the room and suddenly I'll be humiliated and everyone will be like, haha, she's not even smart at all. And I was like, okay, if this isn't the room, then I don't think, then there is no room. Like if I'm smart here, then I'm smart everywhere. But then the more important thing was oh, everyone is just making it up as they go along. Everyone's just doing some job, whatever the actual title of that is. And in the exact same way that me in this role, came into this speaker organization and this conference and didn't really know what I was doing, but was like, I'm smart, let me just keep trying, and just kept putting one foot in front of the other, solving problem after problem. That's the same thing this guy is doing. It's a country that he's
Wow.
running and not a speaker's desk. And that's the same thing this other person's doing. And it just, like nothing, I think, has given me as much immediate, just like, it's just a game and everyone's just trying. And actually, if you decide that that's what's happening, it becomes so much more interesting, so much less terrifying, and then it feels like anything's possible. So that, yeah, I think nothing has given me more peace than than that in my entire life. And so even though it is incredibly awkward to cite yourself as your source of advice, that is the one I would give.
Wow. I mean, that's amazing. Thank you so much for, sharing this. And Actually, the next question looks like what has been one meeting or like one, like someone you met, that meeting you're going to cherish forever, and why?
Oh, there's so many
And
people.
could be anyone. So yeah.
Yeah, that's the thing. I'm thinking about literally everyone in my life, like my friends, and I think I would have to choose my best friend, but not just because she's my best friend. So Nisha Dolan she's an author. She's like a international best-selling author, and she's written 3 books, and she's very impressive in that regard. But really, what it is was that I would never have come to fully understand myself, which is the whole thing you need for peace of mind and to figure out what you're going to do in the world, as we talked about earlier, without her. Because it was the first person, she was the first person I ever met who was willing to just go as deeply as I needed to on the things that I needed to keep thinking and talking about. Like, we'd met a really long time ago in like university and debated. And so in that context, we were just acquaintances who didn't fully understand why we were drawn to each other. And then like, went our separate ways. And then fast forward to 2020, 2021, like sort of during the pandemic when it felt like everybody who had some shit to figure out was finally like just getting caught up in it. Like I feel like everybody came out of that with a diagnosis or a life turnaround or whatever. But in that time was when we met and really reconnected. And I remember at some point doing the averages, and we sent on average like I think like 4 hours of WhatsApp voice notes to each other per day for months on end. Because I was just like, I
Wow.
think I might be autistic, but I don't know if that's possible because I don't really fit the bill. I'm really social and blah blah blah. And she was like, okay, well I am, and I can tell you that you are for these reasons. And we just kept talking about everything over and over again until it finally settled. And it was just the first time in my life that one I realized that some things just do require all that chat. Some things just are that deep. Some things you do just have to keep talking about. And even if that's exhausting for most people, I was lucky enough to find one person that it wasn't, and I could get to the bottom of things. This whole idea of some things you can just never find the answer to. No, anything you can find the answer to if you can find someone to talk to you about it long enough. And it was a real privilege to get to experience that. And so everything I do, I think, for the rest of my life now, and I do think it will be pretty impressive, I credit to getting to finally answer my own questions about myself and how I'm built and what that means for what life I should live. And so, yeah, we should have been.
Wow, that's quite interesting and retrospective as well as to yeah, I mean that's great. And the last question would be, what is an advice that you would like to give to your future self?
Ooh, that's really good. I think it is keep trying to keep as much space for stillness as possible. And so I'm sort of realizing that, for me, it's not work life balance, it's work life stillness. And I think it looks like I'm going to be lucky enough that the work I do will be really fulfilling and exciting and fun and really impactful. And if fame comes along with it, I think it's very easy for that to swallow up everything else. And so I can see a situation where my life and my work are kind of the same. I'm traveling and I'm speaking and blah, blah, blah. But I think that the thing I need to make sure I don't lose is the space for like I'm doodling and I'm coloring, and sometimes I'll just go for a walk and like talk to some trees in my head or whatever. And all of that weirdness and that whimsy and stillness, um, I think it'll be very easy to lose that because it won't be like, oh, I can't meditate because I have to work. It'll rather just be like, I want to go to that party and I want to go to that other speaking event and I want to have this one to one with this person because it will be impactful. And so I think there will be opportunities where it seems like the obvious correct answer is to lean into work or life or social or community because these are all valid things. But I need to remind her that stillness and whimsy and doing nothing technically is a really critical part of being me and sustainably staying me.
Oh yeah, I really appreciate that, like stating all of it. And it's more about also, like the part that you mentioned, being vulnerable as well. And I'm glad that authenticity and vulnerability is something that we are like able to discuss and talk about it over here as well.
100%.
And since you've, like met all these prime ministers of countries, firstly, how did you make that happen for yourself at such a young age? And since we have discussed, it's more about like talking and like connecting, but to a prime minister, what is, like a value that you can provide? I mean, I mean, even if I look at from any business point of view, what is something that you could provide to them? So how did you make that happen, and how should anyone who like wants to interview people or like speak with people, those are in the United Nations or prime ministers of countries, think of that way?
I think so. It did start when I was very young, and it was because I happened to find myself in a leadership position of a student society. And so in the UK and Ireland, student societies tend to be pretty powerful in universities, whether that's because they debate or they organize events, that kind of thing. And it happened that this student society in particular had a long history of inviting, powerful people to come to the campus and receive this award that it gave out. And so in my year, I think it's just because I just took for granted. I was like, well, this is what you do in this role. And that's one of, again, the superpowers of being weird. Like, because I'm autistic, I just sort of take things literally and I don't think too much. I think about whether or not that's normal or possible. I'm just like, the rules of this game are write some letters to powerful people and tell them to come to this university. And if they say yes, cool. If they say no, and when they came, I was like, I guess what you do when someone takes your invitation up is that you host them. And how do you host people? What do they like? And so I'd ask their team, I'm like, what do they enjoy? And what kind of cakes do they like? And what kind of tea do they drink? And like, how can I set up a nice reception that they enjoy? And then when they arrived and they liked the thing, I'd be like, oh, I heard this was your favorite. Is this your favorite because of where you grew up in childhood? Is this your favorite? Tell me the story of why this particular cake is your favorite. And then we would talk about that for a bit. And I'd be like, how was your flight? Oh, I also hate when that happens. And it was always just whatever made the most sense to talk to them about in the here and now. And then from there, again, with the lean into your superpowers, ADHD means you keep seeing connections with everything, even when it feels like it makes no sense. So even if the first conversation starts about, I got you this cake because your chief of staff said it's your favorite, then from there we might be talking about why it is. And then maybe we're talking about the country where it gets made. And then maybe we're talking about how that leans into some policy or philosophy that's really important to them. And it's just ultimately doing the same thing that I was still doing when I was 5. And I would meet someone in the playground and be like, how can we have a nice interaction? And is there anything that I can say to this person, this little person in front of me, that would make them smile and and then if they smile, then I'm smiling. And I just never stopped using that same recipe because it turns out it's the one that works. And so, yeah, I think if you and it's funny because you hear it all the time, and so it kind of sounds like bullshit. And I'm like, just treat people like they're people, like you're a kid and they're a kid and you've met on the playground. Like, is there anything that you seem to have in common that you can talk about? And then from there, keep going, keep trusting that you're a human and they're a human, and ultimately we just want to have pleasant experiences while we're here. And so if you
Wow.
can give someone that, they will reciprocate, and you'll have a good
Dude,
time.
wow, I think after this call, I'm definitely gonna do something like this, like make a list of all the people that I feel are like impossible speakers, and like the entire activity that you've asked me to follow, I'm gonna do that, and I'm gonna like shoot these emails, and you'll be the first person that I tell you that, hey, this is how it looked like.
100%. Definitely do it. I think there's so many things that once you get into the space of, okay, say it's possible, how would I do it? You suddenly get so many ideas. And when you start doing things and you're in like experimental mode, you'll be like, oh, that one kind of got a bit closer than this one. Okay, let me follow this down. And then it's just a game. And eventually, yeah, you'll get something. It's impossible to make moves on the game of life and not have it result in some kind of consequence. So the things that you're doing will have some return. And if you channel your creativity towards it, something will come out. And I'm so excited. I'm so excited to see what happens. I'm so excited to hear about it. And yeah.
Oh, absolutely. And this brings us to an interesting segment that's called Discover Me. So, for the next 3 minutes, if you feel that we need to touch base on some important topics that are really value based, we would do that. So, what is something that you right now feel that, hey, this is something that we should discuss upon?
Ooh, okay, yeah. A sort of thought I've been having a lot recently is the sort of an extension of that first, of that idea we talked about before, that leaning into the uncomfortable parts of your own story or your own identity is where the magic happens. I think that is also true on a collective level. I think so many people right now think the world is impossible to understand. Randomly, bad things just happen, and randomly, sometimes good things happen. It's just chaos out here. It's not. It's actually a very clear story. It's pretty linear. Thing, then thing, then thing, then thing. It's just there's so many variables. But if you lean in to the uncomfortable parts, go and read up on the history that you don't want to think about. Go and read about Black history. Go and read about colonization. Go and read about genocides. Like, if you study the parts that you're avoiding, that's where all of the tracks combine. That's where you kind of understand that's why this system is in place, because it's the leftover from that decision. That's why these people behave this way because of this moment in time. And the propaganda, like, it becomes quite a clear and unfolding narrative. Like, yes, it's long. Yes, there's a lot in it, but it does have a logic to it. It's a bit like saying Game of Thrones is impossible to explain. It actually isn't. There's a lot in it. It's very long, very many books, lots of plot lines, but it's not impossible to explain if you find the through lines and connect the dots. And so, in the same way as the truth of you and the most important, you know, logic of you will be found in the hardest stories to engage with, that's also true collectively. And the more you engage with it, also it becomes its own reward, in the same way as the thing that you're scared of or uncomfortable with yourself. When you sit with it, you then get more comfortable, and suddenly I think everybody who has any kind of diagnosis now knows a time when that would have felt so crazy and scary. I have a mental diagnosis, what? And I was like, I have ADHD. And so anything that seems impossible to contain, when you sit with it long enough, it changes. It becomes more familiar to you. And then as a result, all of the gifts that you can obtain from making sense of it and, connecting it where it belongs in the overall story, you'll get those returns. And so, yeah, I think people should lean into what's uncomfortable on the personal level first. And then when you get to that sense of, oh, I know who I am and my life is pretty organized according to what suits me, and I'm being nourished and rewarded by the structures and choices of my life. And the next level is understand the world around you by leaning in into the stories of most complexity, which are always the hardest ones in terms of the emotional impact of them. And when you do, you'll start to feel like this isn't just a random crazy place you happen to exist in where random things would happen, but actually like a chapter in a very long story that does have a lot of complexity, but also does have logic to it.
That actually makes a lot of sense in terms of like understanding, is because sometimes context matters. I mean, I would definitely know why someone's doing something and what's going on is because I need to have that clarity, like, hey, the person is reacting this way because of this. And it's not that they might be this kind of person. And so, like actually like, what do you think? I mean, someone who's launching their own business, and since you are actually in all the branding and the content side, and I'd say like you were building an entire media engine for yourself. How do you think this pans out? I mean, for some, if you could map out, let's say, uh, 30, 90, and 180-day journey for me.
Ooh, I really like that. Okay, so I think the 30 days is core structure. So like what's your, I guess, in startup terminology, you'd say your beachhead market. Like what's the problem you're first tackling, or what's the first bit of this overall media
Right.
empire you're building? And so in my case, it was like, okay, well, the core thing is it is a podcast. And so basically, what does a podcast need in order to exist? And then you start building that out, um and then from there you're like, okay, what else needs to be part of this? So for me, it was really clear that I know I initially want to just articulate my own ideas, and I won't be able to get everything out if it's a conversation. So I'm like, okay, I'm starting with monologues, but then I really do need to also have dialogue. So that's the next bit. And I was like, apart from dialogue, I really want to bring people together. I know that whatever I'm building, because again, I'm trying to build something that represents me, or that's a vehicle for me, or that includes everything I'm interested in. I know that community is part of it. So there'll have to be events and bringing people together. What does that look like? And that's, now we're getting into, that's not even 60 days, but that's like, I guess, starting to think about what should be next on your roadmap after you built the skeleton outline of what really makes sense in the podcast bits. I'm always like, okay, skeleton outline first, and then while you're building in public, you'll be filling in the skeleton outline for the first part, and then you're starting to set up then for the next part. Um, and then after that, after you're like, okay, this is the full structure of the thing now. I have the first part of it is super well shaded in because I've been doing that once. And maybe the podcast part of it is now seamless. And now you're starting to only fill in the community part of it or the events part of it. And then
Right.
I think there is a bit then after that that is just you actually letting yourself coast on that, just letting yourself not build anymore. Because I think it's a hard thing to get out of, like, and now what else? What else do I need to add to it? And you're like, no, no, this is what you sketched out as a good container that lets you express yourself in all the ways you want to or achieves all the things you need to. Get out of building mode now and then just do that, just exist in that for a while until and unless it then feels like, okay, either all of this is finished and I'm moving on to an entirely new game, or aha, here is the additional part that's missing, or here's another thing I can do. But I think that's for me how I'm structuring this out, is like core necessity thing first that you can sketch out and then start building and already have launched and be iterating. And then as the iteration, when you're in the iterating phase for that, then you're starting to set the foundations then for the next part of it. And then when you're in the iteration phases of that, you again do the same thing. And then I think I always like three. I'm a big fan of three as a number. So I feel like by the time there's three components, you've got your flywheel. Maybe that's already enough. And you don't need to just add more for adding more sake.
Right,
And
right,
then
right.
if the flywheel is built and it's happening, then just let it happen for a while without the need to add more just because you've been in building mode for a while. And then thereafter, either you keep going or you set it aside and then you build something new from scratch.
That's pretty cool. I mean, I love how the count flywheel is something that you fabricated so nicely. I would really love, like, I know your time and it's so much to learn. Maybe like, like we hop on doing some of these lives where we actually do some fireside conversations and teach people that, hey, if you want to do it, we're doing it live. Do it together with us in this moment. And by the end of this call, you have your flywheel ready.
I really like that. That's very cool. Yeah.
Yeah. But it was an amazing call, Daisy. I've loved so much speaking with you. Before we part ways, what is one last thing that you'd like to share?
Mm, I think it is that this movement that's happening of people sort of finding their confidence again, finding their earnestness again, finding their like ditching irony and nonchalance and just like admit your feelings, allow yourself to have feelings and admit those feelings and do the things that you like doing. And if there's something you want to talk about it. Start a podcast. Yes, there can be a million and one. Just do things and actually live, and put down the idea that you can just, hide behind a mask and that will be safe, because that safety is what is suffocating everybody. And you have people in this amazing world with all of this potential saying that they're bored with existence or that there's no point to being here or being alive. And that's such a tragedy. And the only antidote is reclaim your whimsy, reclaim your feelings back, reclaim your experimentation. Just do stuff and see what happens. And so I think that would be the last bit of encouragement for anyone who's like, I'm about to start a thing, just start it. Or like, I would like to just do it. Just do stuff again in the world and see what happens.
That's amazing. I'm so grateful for this conversation and thank you so much for actually doing this together. I've loved every single bit of it and every single bit of the energy and
Oh,
positivity that you have emitted through this entire 60 minutes. I'm so grateful for this.
you're welcome. It was such a pleasure. Thank you for such excellent questions. Like you say, people who do this like to talk, and this was such a nice conversation. So
I
thank you.
appreciate that. Thank you so much.